This episode is all about the Clark County justice system in Las Vegas, Nevada, and specifically one of their prosecutors, Bill Kephart.
For a judge, the courtroom is no place for on-the-job training. And that's why William Kephart is the clear choice for Justice Court Department 6. Kephart has 22 years of experience in the courtroom. For Justice Court Judge, the only choice is William Kephart, because experience is the difference.
Bill Kephart joined the Clark County District Attorney's Office in the early 1990s. A Vanity Fair article described the culture of the DA's office during this time as a culture of win by all costs. One of the first times Kephart used that culture in the courtroom was the 1994 trial of Fred Steese. Fred Steese was convicted of a grisly murder and spent 20 years in prison. During the trial, Fred Steese's attorney said the judge batted down every complaint in favor of the prosecution. The judge in the case previously worked with Kephart at the DA's office. Here's attorney Stephen Jackson.
They were prosecutors. They then have prosecutors who are appearing in front of them, perhaps even people who they've worked with, and they're biased towards that world.
Fred Steese's case has similarities to Blaze's: a jailhouse informant, a confused confession, and alibi witnesses, placing him in an entirely different city at the time of the murder. His lawyers, certain of Fred Steese's innocence, fought to get the prosecution's file on the case. When they did, more than a decade later, they found multiple things that prosecutor Kephart had hidden from them, including conversations with the jailhouse snitch offering them a deal to testify, something that Kephart had denied. But the smoking gun, a bus ticket which showed their client was in fact in another state during the murder. The Nevada Supreme Court intervened, but the DA's office vowed to retry Fred Steese. Fred Steese, who had already been in prison for nearly 20 years, accepted an Alford plea. He said he just wanted to get out. He had been in prison from 1994 to 2013 and was eventually awarded just over $1 million. In 1996, in the case against Garland, Washington, Nevada Supreme Court justices found, quote, several instances of prosecutor misconduct in a sexual assault case. In 2001, a judge granted the defendant a new evidentiary hearing, and he was released. In 1997, the Nevada Supreme Court reversed the death penalty murder convictions of Stephen Murray and Robert Byford. The court found, quote, deliberate and improper comments made by the prosecution, including Kephart, during cross-examination and also closing arguments. In 2001, Bill Kephart was once again reprimanded by the Nevada Supreme Court for the case State of Nevada vs. Charles Lee Randolph. It was a murder trial. Kephart told the jury, quote, if you have a gut feeling he's guilty based on that feeling. The Nevada Supreme Court chastised Kephart for those comments, and he was fined $250. In 2002 was Blaze's trial. Also in 2002, Kephart was reprimanded for choking a defendant on the stand. The Nevada Supreme Court once again had to intervene, stating the instances of prosecutor misconduct were pervasive and substantial, with one justice commenting, quote, an accused who takes the stand runs many risks. One of them should not be the prosecutor would physically assault him or her. Later that year, Kephart was banned from trials for a short period of time. In 2008, the Nevada Supreme Court tossed out a murder conviction in another death penalty case prosecuted by Kephart, saying among other issues, the prosecution's misconduct was significant and occurred throughout the trial. An audit conducted by the state of Nevada found retrying murder trials can cost taxpayers about $500,000 a case. Bill Kephart became a judge in 2010 and in 2014 moved to the 8th Judicial District Court of Nevada, where he presided over civil, construction, and also criminal cases. During all of his elections for judge, Bill Kephart touted his conviction rate as a prosecutor.
I had a 97% conviction rate in felony jury trials as a prosecutor.
They tout this, we're going to be tough on crime. And it's like, well, no, you don't need to be tough on crime. You need to just be fair. Some of the judges who you have in Nevada are some of the most flipped judges in the country. Their cases just constantly get reversed.
That's attorney Stephen Jackson, who says judges like Kephart tend to be very pro-prosecution. Judge Vega, the judge who presided over Blaze's case, was also a former prosecutor. But back to Kephart. In 2017, Bill Kephart told a defendant if she got married, he might go easier on her sentencing.
Ms. Pate, did you want to say anything before I impose sentence here?
That I was sorry for what I done and not gonna do it again. I have a baby coming in up at that time.
You have what?
A baby coming.
Okay.
7 months pregnant. So
Tell you what, I'm going to continue this 30 days. So come back with proof that you've been married, and it'll change things for me. If not, I'm going to sentence you as a felon.
That defendant comes back with proof that she's married.
Let me ask you something. Miss Pate, did you feel like did you feel like you were coerced into this, or did you want to marry him?
no, I really did.
Judge Kephart then went on to sentence her as a felon.
In accordance with your plea of May 18, 2017, I am adjudicating you guilty of the felony offense of attempt battery or substantial bodily harm.
He was never reprimanded for this. Also in 2017 as a judge, Bill Kephart was reprimanded by the Nevada Supreme Court for talking to the media about the Kirsten Lovato case, or Blaze's case. The justices said those statements could affect the outcome or impair the fairness of Ms. Lovato's case. In 2020, as a judge, the Nevada Supreme Court made the unusual decision to move sentencing from Judge Kephart after he changed a defendant's sentence because the defendant cussed at him. The court had a new judge give that defendant a new sentence, and when a new lawyer took over the case for the defendant on the bench, Judge Kephart said, quote, "Have fun." In 2021, Judge Kephart lost his bid for re-election. Not long after, the woman who beat him, Judge Crystal Eller, was served with a subpoena, and she told the newspaper, the Nevada Current, that she was certain Kephart was behind it, and pointed out a recent debate where Kephart said, "Just wait and see what's coming down the pipeline for her." Kephart denied Eller's accusations.
Kephart has almost every law enforcement endorsement, representing over 3,000 officers.
That is from one of Bill Kephart's campaign videos. A spokesperson for the Las Vegas Police Department said officers served Judge Eller at the request of the Clark County District Attorney's Office. So how did Judge Kephart know that the District Attorney's Office would be serving Crystal Eller? Blaze's supporter Michelle Revelle says for a long time she expected something similar could happen to her.
But there was also many days that I sat here in my office and looked across the street and there was a police car parked right across the street from my house. And so I would sit here in my office because my desk faces the street.
Yes.
And on that street across from me, there was a cop car parked there many days. Never pulled.
Are you talking about before, after the first trial? When was this?
This was before the second trial. I don't know what they were parked there for, okay? But I do know that they never pulled anybody over. I never saw them do anything.
He was completely innocent, but this case is exactly why you might have a pause. That's what this case kind of did to people that were involved. It made you look at things in a different lens.
Nothing ever happened. I never got arrested.
Michelle Revelle says she never figured out what those officers were doing there, but says in her gut, she believes it was an intimidation tactic because of her support of Blaze. I also asked Dr. Larry Sims, who was the medical examiner for Blaze's case, who provided that time of death for Duran Bailey. You may remember how he moved his timeline multiple times, first to a time when Blaze had a solid alibi, and then slowly expanded it to include a time where Blaze and her witnesses could not account for her. If you ask Blaze's supporters, they think Dr. Sims was pressured to move that timeline, something that he denies.
When you are called, especially when you do work for the county, right? What is the relationship with the prosecutor or, the DA? Is it a close relationship? Is it more like, because I feel like people I've interviewed for this case kind of allude to the fact like, the prosecutor's friends with the judge and they're working together and they're on the same team kind of. So when you are called, especially when you are working for the government, like an entity like that, is there some sort of a feeling like I am working with the prosecution, would you say?
That's a very good question, and I've been asked about it before in different contexts. I can just talk to you about my experience. When I was in Chicago, those are called state's attorneys. And I never had any difficulty with them. And I never had, if the public defenders wanted to talk to me, the district attorney or their state's attorney, no problem. You talk to anybody you want to, you're an expert objective witness. Now that was not the case when I came to Las Vegas. I ran into some very serious issues with my job because I was nobody's boy and I was nobody's witness. And
so you felt like they were kind of pushing you, in essence, is what you're saying?
They had a belief system. You know, I'm not going to say that I was being coerced or, basically it's how I saw it was just a disagreement in roles. And my role was an expert witness, and I got highly criticized by the district attorney's office for talking to the defense. I was particularly glad when those particular defense attorneys retired. I do understand where your question is coming from. And, the sad thing, like I said, is I have seen that there was undue influence from outside and, that I didn't agree with it.
Dr. Sims adamantly denies that he never changed any testimony in the Kirsten Lobato case or any case that he was involved in. I asked him specifically about then prosecutor Bill Kephart, if he ever felt pressured by him. Dr. Sims said no.
And I want to be very clear about this. I'm not telling you this to look like some kind of hero or something. I'm telling you this factually. That is exactly what happened. There were definitely forensic pathologists I worked with, both in Chicago and Las Vegas, that were very pro-DA. I worked at the coroner's office for 20 years, and it was only during the last 3 years that I got the respect for being objective that I deserve. Right. I rendered my own independent opinion. When I first got here, I would frequently ask for information, and they would not give it to me. It was a relationship that was fraught with a lot of problems.
During his time on the bench, Judge Kephart presided over more than 100 cases.